Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to Spotlight. Yes, this is a new year. This is the first Spotlight of the year. I wish everyone a happy and a healthy and joyful new year, and I hope that we commit to doing our part to help each other to succeed. I'm Edjuenka, and tonight we're going to be talking about the upcoming BVI Business Outlook Conference. We're going to be discussing the year ahead in business for the BVI. We're going to be talking about the primary economic sectors, financial services, tourism, real estate, construction, and we're going to bring, the conference is going to bring attention to a new economy which has emerged out of the global crisis, and that would have happened over the last couple of years. So it's going to be a very interesting program tonight. I have three very special guests. Mr. Russell Harrigan, he is the Chief Executive Officer of Oyster Global Marketing, along with Mrs. Portia Harrigan. She is the Managing Director. Later on in the program, we're going to have Ms. Lynette Smith. She is a Branch Manager at Scotia Bank, and we're going to be talking about business. So we're going to take a break for a word from our sponsors, and we're going to come right back with more Spotlight right after this. Keep it locked right here.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm here with Portia Harrigan and Russell Harrigan. Welcome to Spotlight. Good to see you.
It's good to be here.
Good to be here, finally.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, at long last, I've been
better late than never.
Trying to get you on Spotlight for the longest. But anyhow, it's good to see you guys.
We're here for a good reason now.
Lord have mercy. Don't stand no trouble, Portia. Yes, you started, I think last year was your first year.
No, 2011.
Oh, last year. Oh,
second.
Yes.
This is our third year.
This is the third year.
Yes.
2011 BVI Business Outlook. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the genesis of that endeavor.
Well, as you know, Cromwell, we publish Business BVI, which is, we are in our 7th issue.
7th.
And we have been talking for some time that we need to, as we try to make the magazine more relevant to the community, to move it to a point where we organize a conference, looking at the year ahead and what potentially is the outlook for business. But really, at the end of the day, to talk about the issues in the business community that we think need to be addressed, and to have a frank discussion about that. I don't think there's enough of those conversations in the BVI, and that's really the genesis of it. We really seek to bring certainly a number of local thinkers and people who are in business, who live and breathe their subjects every day. But we always think we live in a global community. It's always good to infuse that with people from outside who can bring a fresh pair of eyes, if you wish, to the table and to say, here's what's going on elsewhere, here's how we think BVI fits in, or how are some things you need to consider. So we always try to find a good cross-section of speakers locally and internationally, and to make it an interesting day. And so far it's been, I think, well.
It's been well received.
Yeah.
You had good attendance over the last 2 years.
Yeah, last year we were actually sold out. We had a waiting list. We're looking for the same this year as well. The first year we also had, actually we were very pleasantly surprised, because the first year we had a full house. Last year we had a waiting list, and we expect that this year we'll also have a waiting list again.
Who are the type of people that attend the conference?
A range, actually. People who are in business, from managing directors and CEOs, middle management people, entrepreneurs who are aspiring to do things and want to get some sense as to what's going on. We also get a good cross-section of decision makers from the public sector, which I think is quite useful. I mean, public sector and the private sector must go together. And I think that's the range of it.
What's your sense of what they get out of the conference?
I think they appreciate the frank discussion. I think we also bring to the table, as I said earlier, issues that we deem the community needs to look at. For example, last year we had a frank and straight up discussion about the air access in the country and what is potentially going to happen and could happen at the airport in terms of the expansion. Not just the physical expansion, but why is it needed? And out of that, I think most people for the first time got to see some of the graphics as to what potentially could happen. And subsequent to that, obviously, the government made a decision that it's something that they're going to look at very seriously. That those things, issues like that, have a long-term implication for the territory. Another one in this year, if we talk a little bit about this year's program, we've been talking for some time about a third leg to this economy. And this year we have a panel that looks at doing that, discussing that, but one that is potentially internet driven. This is new, novel. You might say it's novel in some ways, but we think it's compatible with the industry that we have. It's environmentally friendly. It's technology which we're supposed to have a lot of around here. And the question is, how can we take those assets and really over time make it into
internet driven? How do you mean that?
A lot of our lives and livelihood is increasingly done by the internet. It's driven, it's on the internet. So how do we take that technology and what can we do as a territory? And the basis of it is, one of the things that's unique about the BVI, a lot of the fiber optic cables that start within Trinidad, Barbados, or wherever, that go further north, they tend to run through the BVI, which means there's capacity here. How can we take that capacity and turn it into a potentially a sector that can help to drive the BVI economy? Our young people are very technologically savvy. I mean, sometimes I don't understand what's going on my own iPad, and I give it to my 7-year-old, and she tells me, "Stand aside, Daddy," and here's how it happened. Mm-hmm. The point is, they're very into this technology, and we need to find ways to take that creativity and drive it to help potentially build our economy. A lot of the things we do today, Cromwell, as you know yourself, you're an iPhone man, they're app driven. Mm-hmm. The whole design of apps is an area of opportunity, and so we need to, again, as the theme for this conference is thinking outside of the box, we need to look at those potential opportunities that we have, and there are opportunities here.
One of the things that concerns me about internet-driven economy is that we tend to be on the important end, and mm-hmm. what happens is that we import to the detriment of our local businesses, because mm-hmm. it comes to a situation now where I'm laying in my bed and I'm ordering up everything I want. I don't have to come out to shop. I don't have to mm-hmm. go to buy electronics at the electronics store, because I could order it mm-hmm. on the internet. I don't have to go to the mm-hmm. boutique, because I could order clothes on the internet. Mm-hmm. I don't have to go to the shoe store. I could order my shoes on the internet. Mm-hmm. I don't have to go to the hardware store to get pots and pans. I could order them on the internet. Mm-hmm. And if you're not factoring in duty-free mm-hmm. handling, insurance, mm-hmm. and all those things, mm-hmm. you tend to think it looks cheaper at the face of it.
Right.
And I'm concerned about the impact that might have, that type of economy might have on the BVI, and how do we become a part of buyers from outside mm-hmm. the BVI.
But I think if I can interject, I think that's only just one aspect,
right?
Mm-hmm. One element of internet-driven business. So, for instance, he mentioned very briefly the whole development of apps. You using mm-hmm. the iPhone and the iPads. Right. There is tremendous opportunity for young people, in particular, for instance, mm-hmm. To become involved in that aspect of the industry, creating apps. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of opportunities for young people in the Caribbean, in the BVI, to create apps, not only just for the Caribbean but for the world. You have young people mm-hmm. all around the world mm-hmm. creating apps that you and I use, young people in India, young people in Malaysia, young people in the Philippines. And this is something that we want to get our people to think about, that you can sit in the BVI. If you are very much into computers and that sort of thing and technology, there are other opportunities outside of the whole shopping aspect. Mm-hmm. And I think when we think of technology in the Caribbean, we tend to focus more on the entertainment aspect,
right.
whereby indeed there are a lot of business opportunities that we're overlooking, and these are some of the things that we want to explore, discuss in a broad sense awareness at the conference so that people understand that you don't have to be in the United States, India, China to capitalize on some of the opportunities that are available in the technology industry.
Look at another thing, Cromwell, and what you said is absolutely true about staying in your bed and ordering from wherever. That is the reality that we live. That's the world that we're in. It's not going to change. We have to find ways to make sure that the concern that you raise, a very legitimate one, is something that does not, the best that we can mitigate it to impact us. But however, those businesses, to sharp businesses, will use the same internet to reach you, and they're right here. But you know, there's another angle to that. If you look, for example, we boast ourselves as one tourism destination that's we like to say of high quality, and a similar financial services sector. There are probably 500,000 companies registered here. What services do those companies need? They're not here. I mean, they're registered here. But what services that those companies need, most of it probably can be internet driven, that we can provide to those companies from right here. And that's how we have to think about it. We have those companies here. It's a strong part of our economy. Let's think outside the box. What can we do? What services that they need? Why would they go someplace else to get some of those services? And how can we create an environment where those services can be value added to our economy here?
An example of that is the outsourcing that has been taking place here in the BVI with trust company business going to Sri Lanka, for example. Could we have done that business here from home, for example?
Exactly.
All the paperwork, all the typing, and all that stuff that they do overseas. Can we do those things there? And can we get business from overseas to buy from us here and ship to them on the internet, email the stuff to them, just like they would email the stuff back here to us?
Now some people sit at home and say these guys are just the dreamers. But that's where they're at. When a man sat many years ago, looked up at the moon and said, you know, I'd like to get up there. It took Kennedy in '60 to say, between now and the end of this decade, we will land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. That's when it got going. Someone got up and said, we're going to do this. Put the resources, a plan together, and made it happen. It's the same thing. We have tremendous potential, particularly with our young people. Forget us. You and I are probably over the hill.
I'm not over the hill, too.
But think about the young people. You know, the world in which they're growing up in, and think about 20, 30 years from now, the world that they will live in, where the technology will be. And that is the reality that they're going to live in, and we have to prepare them to live in that world. And if they can earn a living in that world from the education and what have you, we're strengthening ourselves and strengthening our economy.
And I find that one of the things that we don't do in the Caribbean, let me say that one of the things that we do in the Caribbean is complain about the World Wide Web taking our business, and we don't think of how we can take advantage of that market as well, that global market.
I was sitting Friday night, we went to Virgin Gorda to meet with someone over dinner. That Premier and I had a chance to meet in Monaco. He's here, owns a home here, and say on a break. Certainly welcome him in terms of the numbers. And as we sat on the ferry going over, the Premier and I had a conversation with a young man from Virgin Gorda about developing an app for the tourism sector. And it's an app that can be developed here and sold globally, because you'll have to buy it and you have to access it. But it can be something that can be, why can't that be developed right here? For our tourism, and God knows who else, sell it to other people.
I was reading an article the other day in a paper, it might have been your magazine self, a whole bunch of African kids in Nigeria are developing apps in the university. They just for fun and trying them out and selling them, and some of them have made millions of dollars from selling these various apps. So
as a matter of fact, the app that was used, or the technology that was used in Haiti during the earthquake, was actually developed in Kenya, in an African country. So, you know, that tells you that the world is quite small because of technology, and the opportunities are vast.
And we have to start taking a different look at the use of the technology.
We have to start
not be afraid of it.
Not be afraid of it. Engage it. You know, one of the most interesting things about the internet, and one of the leveling effects of the internet is that you can develop a product here in the BVI today, and you can have a global market for that product. 10, 15 years ago, that was unheard of. You had to set up all kind of distribution structures and all kind of crazy things. Today, you can have a global market for your product, whatever it is. Once it has a demand and it's done well and there's qualities, and that's one of the things that small little islands in countries like us today have an advantage that we didn't have 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. We're going to take a break.
Sure.
And Dr. Pickering was in the house a few days back talking about another sector in the economy. You talked about this new emerging economy with the internet and so on, and he's talking about developing fishing as an industry, and I was quite excited about that. Perhaps we could talk a little bit about that when we come back and continue discussion about the upcoming conference and the programs that's going to be presented at the conference as well. Keep it locked right at the Spotlight. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Spotlight is brought to you by Bolo's High-Tech Printery, Virgin Island Motors, and Clarence Thomas Limited.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Joe Enke, and I'm here with Russell Harrigan, the CEO of Oyster Global Marketing, and Portia Harrigan, Managing Director, and we're talking about the upcoming BVI Business Outlook Conference that's going to be held on the 16th of January on Scrub Island, and there's a lot of stuff, Portia, that's coming in to a lot of presenters, a lot of information. Perhaps, and I know we promised to talk about the new sector, economic sector that the Minister of Natural Resources and Labor were talking about the other day in the House of Assembly. But since it came to my mind, let's talk about some of the programs that's going to be presented during the Business Outlook Conference.
Right. So we always address the topic of tourism and financial services because they are our two main industries. And this year we're going to start out with a discussion on how the recent election in the United States will impact us, what it means for us. And so we have Ms. Neera Tanden of the American Center for Progress, who's going to be speaking to us on that. You said there are a lot of speakers. Yes, there seems to be too many speakers, but we have it. I think we have it quite just right. We figured it out. So we have panels of 3 to 4 persons. We'll be discussing tourism, whether or not we feel tourism for the BVI has gone past its prime. What do we need to do to grow the industry? What are some of the new ideas we need to introduce? We'll be talking about financial services and whether or not it's still a viable industry we think well into the future. So we have some really prestigious speakers addressing that issue. Mr. Jerry Ferrara will be the moderator for that session, and we have 4 speakers from the industry. Mr. Martin Crawford from Oil out of Hong Kong.
Yeah, one of the leading companies that incorporate the companies into the BVI.
And then we have some
leading companies in the world. Oil is one of the leading trust companies in the world.
And it was one of the companies he bought that was in the BVI.
Right. And then we have some leading media persons like Afar Magazine, which has become or is becoming one of the leading travel magazines in the world. They're doing some really cutting edge stuff, and
not based in New York, based in San Francisco. It's probably 3 or 4 years old. A group of guys got together and said, look, we're going to decide and put together a travel book, and it's a leading book now.
Right, so she's going to be speaking along with Mr. Tom Marchant of the Black Tomato Travel Company out of the UK on what to expect in the high end of tourism, what high-end tourists are expecting, and whether or not we are providing those services and products, and what we can do to increase the value of the tourist experience. And we're also going to have an in-depth discussion on social media. How can we expand the use of social media in the BVI to grow particularly small businesses from a marketing perspective? And what else do we have on the agenda?
We have a panel on entrepreneurial, catching the entrepreneurial
very
spirit.
Importantly, small business development.
That we have asked Kevin Smith to chair.
Right.
We brought in, on that regard, we have some years ago, Richard Branson set up the Branson Center, I think it's in Jamaica, that looks at entrepreneurship, and I think there's one in South Africa. We've asked the lady from that entity to come and to speak about what they're doing and things that we can do, in addition to Kevin and a couple of other regional speakers.
Amber Walker, that session is being specifically sponsored by Scotiabank, and you'll hear more about that later from our Scotiabank representative. So we have quite an informative day, dynamic speakers, and very interactive social media sessions as well. We're going to have an iPad station whereby people can, we're going to be running demonstrations on small business productivity apps. So all of us who walk around with iPads and still haven't made maximum use of them, you'll get the opportunity to have a hands-on experience with walking through some of the apps. We'll also have the Twitter board, so you can send your tweets out to people who are at the conference and people who are not at the conference, just letting them know what's going on. So while we're talking about social media, we also want to incorporate that as much as possible into the event so people can actually feel and experience some of the things that we're talking about.
That's great. How do you register for the conference? Is there still space?
We have very limited space left. You can register online at www.bvibusinessoutlook.com.
Well, in short, you can call us at 494-8011 at the office.
Right. You can always call at the office, 494-8011. But the easiest way is to register online. And because we're talking so much about technology, we've just launched our brand new website, and we're very excited about it. We're still tweaking it a bit, but we'd like people to go to that site and, take a whirl around it and see what we're offering.
I wanted to say one in addition to what Portia said about and some of the speakers, right? For example, going back to the internet thing, panel that we're looking at. I mean, one of the panelists we have is young Stephen Vanterpool. Stephen Bond, BVI Lender grew up here, and now works in Seattle with NBC. I think before that he was with Amazon. So who else can you find to bring back to talk about the technology than a local person who's made it? And he's young, so he can speak to young people and he can speak to what's going on in the industry, so that it's relevant to the people, the young people. I don't see gray hairs me up there talking about internet and stuff, but that Steve who started right here at Infinite, so it shows you that look, this thing is possible. This isn't a pipe dream. You've got to have some determination. You got to have a plan, but it can happen. And beyond that, we have, I think, some great speakers. We have Alan Shaston, who's going to be speaking on the tourism panel, one of our tourism panels, which is the caption for that panel is the Caribbean tourism globally competitive, or is it becoming a legacy product? And that's provocative. But I think Alan, certainly a former minister, director, owns businesses in St. Lucia tourism, is a ideal person to speak to that. In addition to the Commissioner of USVI Tourism, Commissioner Nicholson, Doty is going to be speaking. She's not only commissioner, she's also chairman of the CTO and has certainly more tremendous responsibilities, plus a couple of other people that we have on that particular panel. But the whole idea is to show, not only what's happening here in the BVI, but in the context of what's happening regionally and certainly globally.
And then the persons the attendees are going to have an opportunity to interact with the speakers.
Yeah, all of the panels are designed to be. Most of them are an hour, and of that 45 minutes is discussion presentations and 15 minutes is set aside for questions. So it's quite interactive, and people can ask their questions and certainly make themselves heard.
And for interaction, you also have the morning session, the pre-conference session in the morning. You have interactive lunch session, and then there is a networking session after the event that runs from 5 to 5:45, I think. So you have hors d'oeuvres and cocktails at the end of the session. You get to chat with the presenters, ask additional questions that you may not have had the opportunity to ask during the sessions during the day.
One of the new things we're not going to comment. One of the new new things we're doing this year. And as you get deeper into what you do, we always try to tweak it and what things we can do. For example, we have a number of people in the tourism space coming in, and we're making sure that certainly with FR Magazine that we get her around, because at the end of the day, if we can accrue some ink for the BVI, certainly she's never been here before, so it's a chance for her to see the BVI and see the product, and I'm sure out of that will come some articles and potentially some things with the BVI.
Okay. Mm-hmm. We left off earlier talking about another sector, the fishing industry. Mm-hmm. Certainly, it's something that we've been talking about for many years, and
ad nauseum.
Yeah, and for some reason we thought that it wasn't feasible.
It is very feasible.
What's your take on that now? And of course we heard it from the minister that one of the challenges that we were having was a lack of storage space. Mm-hmm. He's engaged in developing some more storage space. Mm-hmm. He's got storage facilities. Mm-hmm. He has ideas about putting other facilities on the sister islands on Anegada,
bring them in
Jocelyn Dyke and Virgin Gorda, so that fishermen don't have to come all the way to Rotown with their fish and go back to the other islands and so on, which seems to be beginnings, the genesis of a systematic development of a fishing industry.
And that is what is needed. As I said to you a while ago, I used the reference of Kennedy saying we're going to put a man on the moon. The leaders have got to take the industries up and say, look, we are going to champion this. And because they're the point of the spear, and if they're leading it and they're demonstrating the interest and putting the enabling environment in place, then the chances of it surviving are that much better. Fishing is an extremely good example, and I didn't hear all of Dr. Pritchard's comments, but you and I talked about it. Actually, you were quite enthused about what he was saying. I think if you look at the BVI, we all know that the fishing grounds in the BVI are quite fertile. They're here, other people use them, why don't we? We have, I think, a vibrant tourism product, and we're trying to keep it growing. There's great global demand for fish, you know. Another thing, the Tropical brings in the containers, they leave it empty. Mm-hmm. You know, if Tropical can get 5 cents on each container going out, and we can export fish in addition to what we have here, you know, what's the downside? And more people are obviously eating fish globally, and if you look at people like the Japanese, you know, they can't get enough. And the high-end restaurants that are being created globally. I think you and I were watching the thing in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago.
It was the
Wynn in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have flown in globally one of the biggest fish markets
on a daily
basis, and they insist on the highest quality. They even are going back to technology. They have developed an app that they put in the fish that measures the temperature of the fish from the time it leaves where it is until it gets there, so they can take it, download it, and see, you know, has the temperature gone too high, and if it's gone too high, the guy says, I can't sell that, my customers are not going to have it. You know, so the point is that there's a market for this, and it's for us to think outside of the box, really, mm-hmm. and to find ways to sell and to make a living from the assets that God has granted us with, and He's left us some great assets, in my opinion.
Okay. And Cromwell, having, you know, I'm originally from the Bahamas, huge fishing industry. Mm-hmm. Bahamian fish is sold at Walmart. Millions of dollars worth of Bahamian lobster is sold in Europe, particularly in France. So that tells you that there are possibilities. Yeah. There's a huge fishing industry. Crab is exported, lobster is exported, grouper is exported, conch is exported. So the market is there. I mean,
and substantial exports.
Substantial. We're talking millions and millions of dollars of seafood exported from the Bahamas on an annual basis. And also, something I think you mentioned off air a little earlier, the locals control the industry. Mm-hmm. It's predominantly Bahamians. As a matter of fact, it's exclusively Bahamians in the fishing industry in the Bahamas.
Going back to thinking outside the box, I think in this, you talked about the budget debate and the budget discussion. In the same budget presentation by the Premier, he mentioned that we're looking at establishing a presence in the Far East, mm-hmm. particularly driven initially by financial services, tourism to follow. But that office can also be the basis for helping with Dr. Pickering's mission in finding and developing relationships with people in the Far East to help us to determine and to develop the sector here. That's the kind of thinking outside the box that we have to do. The office, yes, it's going to be looking at tourism and financial services, but what other things can we add? That part of the world, as you say on your show every week, is growing like leaps and bounds. The U.S. has shifted its whole defense structure from Europe to Asia. They didn't do it because they didn't have nothing to do, you know.
Yes.
That's where the puck is moving. So we are getting, we like to say we have 45% of the world's IBCs. Of that 45%, 60% of them come from Asia. We should have had an office in that area, that part of the world, long time, because so much of our livelihood is tied to it. But how can we use that base to do other things, education, cultural things?
Yeah. Tourism, finance services, export of fish.
You name it.
I mean, it's what do you call it? Where the ambassador is, the embassy.
Exactly. And that's the kind of thinking that we have to do. We have got to, and we have the ability. In 1981, when Reagan said we are not, again, extending, Carter said, yes, we'll give you the double taxation treaty, and Reagan came and said, I'm not signing that. That's not going to happen. We didn't lay down and play that. We came up with the financial services sector. So the ability is there. We've got to then get that same energy and do some other things in our
talking about the business outlook, you know, and you have someone's going to be talking about the American the new American economy
and what's happening
and what the president is planning to do with the economy and how that's going to impact us. Let's talk a little bit about that. The financial services sector, and I had a audio article from The Economist that mentioned our friend Robert McTavish and the BVI and talk about how BVI was doing financially and how the Bahamas stole our legislation down to the typos in the legislation, right?
They're good at that. They're good
and when
I don't blame them.
When why reinvent the wheel? That is, we always say.
It.
Right? Yeah. But when the Bahamas wanted to raise the fees on the international companies, the same OIL, they went to Samoa and rewrote their legislation in 3 weeks and moved the companies from the Bahamas to Samoa. Now that, of course, that sends up a big red flag with me, and I've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
And this article is saying the financial services is shifting to Asia. Speaking of our economic outlook, how concerned should we be about that, and how competitive will we be in a market that is driven by Asia, and now Asia is looking to do the service itself?
I would look at it this way. I'm optimistic. Look, 45% of the world's IBCs are not here because they like the BVI. They're here because the fundamentals for the sector, the laws, the infrastructure, and as it relates to that, whether it's the registry or the commercial court, it's the system of laws that we are governed by is here. So yes, other people, as you said, the Bahamas will try, but if we are cutting edge, constantly keeping up, we will have our share. The burden is on us to make sure that we keep our share of the market, and I think it will be here, but we can't just assume it's going to be here. The world has changed. It's very, very competitive, and if you fall asleep, I will have your lunch. That's just the reality of it. Someone said to me today, which I found very interesting, that you've got to be on the trade routes. And he was using it in the context of the financial services sector. But then it dawned to me how unique it was. If you were in China, God knows how many years ago, and you were on the nutmeg run, or you were on the trade route, you did well. The question is, Are we on the trading route? What are we doing to make sure that we remain on the trading route? That route changes.
The office in Hong Kong that we planning to open up soon, that's certainly being on the trading route. That's an example of being on the trading route.
Exactly. So the question is, how do we take that presence and think about it not only 2 years down the road, but 10 years down the road? How do we take that presence and broaden it beyond just what what we initially said we will do about it? And that's for us to decide. We have the assets. It's for us to, as I like to say, merchandise them.
Yeah. We got to take a break, and I want to bring Ms. Lynette Smith into the discussion. But I also want to talk a little bit more about the economic outlook,
right?
And particularly in tourism and in relationship to North America, particularly North America being 70% of our tourism market, and the struggles that they're having. How is their economy going to bounce back, and how are we going to increase business in the BVI? Depending on North America, still in some economic experiencing some economic challenges.
Sure.
So those are some of the things that regarding the business outlook that I'd like to get to right after these words from our sponsors. Keep it locked right here. The Spotlight. We'll be right back.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.
Welcome back to Spotlight. We're having a really interesting discussion. There's an upcoming conference, the BVI Outlook, Business Outlook Conference, coming up on Scrub Island the 16th of this month of January. That's next week. That's next Wednesday.
A week from tomorrow.
Yeah, next Wednesday.
Yes, and we'd like people to go online to register at www.bvibusinessoutlook.com or 494-8011. Thank you very much.
And you want them to be at Trellis Bay at 8 o'clock?
They must be at Trellis Bay by 5 to 8, no later than 5 to 8.
5 to 8.
Well, actually, we've booked a boat that will take almost everybody, but if you're running a few minutes late, the Scrub Island boat will take
But we leave on time.
The latecomers.
Okay. If anybody want to ask any questions, you can call us. So let the number come up on the screen, and you could also call us if anybody wants to ask questions or make a comment. It's quite an interesting discussion about the outlook for BVI business. And Russell and Portia, you got to come back because we have a lot to talk about in terms of business. And I know that we are trying on here at JTV to develop programming that speaks to the business and the development of business and entrepreneurship in the BVI. So I think you guys will be very helpful in that endeavor, because I think we have to start forming partnerships. And before I get into the tourism sector, you and I talked about years ago about the unity of businesses and the understanding among business people about the stewardship that they have for the community. And is that something that your magazine and your company and this conference look to try to embrace and have the business community understand their role in the development of the country?
I think it's critical. We try to live it through our business, and I think we try to project it as much as possible to help people to understand how critically important it is. That's why we do what we do. A lot of what we do is to sensitize people to the importance of things such as that. I mean, we are in business to make money, but we talk about it all the time, that our focus is first to community and then to profit. That may not be the greatest business model, but that's what we've lived by thus far. And
well, if you study, don't be so don't bash that idea so much. If you study American history, American business history, you would notice that the growth and development of American business started with that philosophy.
That's true. As a matter of fact, I just read an article speaking to that very same issue in Fortune.
And America's demise, I personally blame for a shift in philosophy.
Well, it's true.
There is.
It's very true.
And there is a shift back. While I was away, I picked up. My wife is a huge fan of Whole Foods, and I like books. Where do you, when you went to Whole Foods, there's a book on conscious capitalism written by John Mackey, who is the CEO of Whole Foods. It's quite an interesting book. But to your point, it goes back to that point that it's not just about profit. There's a responsibility that businesses have to the community. And we've always in Business BVI, I don't think we had one in that issue or in this issue, had articles on philanthropy. It's a terribly important part of the community, and it can be small, and you have to find a way to do it. We just did that competition we did with kids from the high school to get them thinking, 10, 15 years from now, what sectors should we be adding to the economy? But you want to talk a little bit about tourism.
Well, the business outlook depends to a large extent on financial services and tourism, since our other sectors are not fully
developed
on board as yet.
It's vibrant at this point,
So, and we know that America has been having challenges, and how is what you're seeing down the road for BVI businesses, and particularly small businesses, in the context of the international situation, the North American and European situation?
I think, Cromwell, while yes, we're still having some economic challenges, and while the U.S. is still having some economic challenges, what we have to realize is there's still people out there who have money to spend. Yeah, the middle class is feeling some pressure, but there are still very many people out there who want to come to destinations such as the BVI. We have the product. We just need to, I think, improve on our product. Be able to offer the amenities that these people are looking for, and we will do well once we figure out what their needs are. It's not only just about sun, sand, and sea anymore. They want to have the best of everything. So, the high-end properties may be doing extremely well right now, whereby the ones on the middle to lower end may not be doing so well. And those are the voices that you're hearing most. So those people may be saying, oh, it's so slow, we're not doing so well. It's not because the overall destination cannot do well or is not doing well. It's just that those properties are probably not offering what the tourists who want to come to BVI are looking for, and that's one of the things that I think we have to really look at very seriously.
And usually those properties are local properties.
Yeah, and that's where where another hat, the board comes in. We have to find ways to help them, those smaller properties who might not have the wherewithal to market and other things, and their circumstances are unique to them. And we've got to understand that. We've got to inculcate that into our heads, so that when we, for example, I remember a couple of months ago we were doing some things at the board where we were trying to get some packages put together, and you send them out and you tell people what you want, and most of the big guys will respond because they have the capacity to do it. And some of the smaller ones, they were lagging and what have you. And I said, you got to understand the properties. If you've got to go out to meet with them, write down what they want, take the pictures for them, package it together, send it to them and sign off. That's what you have to do, because that's the way they are. That's their circumstance. But at the end of the day, as you said, a lot of them are BVI lender-owned properties, so we have an obligation to help them. But look at it another way. Perhaps the Premier likes to say 30% or say 25% of the capacity are those properties. If they're doing well, then by jolly, the destination is doing well. So nobody can be left behind. But the other thing that we have to do as a board in that regard is to get them to appreciate and to understand the trends that are driving visitor expectation and consumer patterns. We have got to do that. We can collect the information, put on the seminars, and let them know, so that you have to do it this way because this is what the customer now is expecting.
This is the expectation.
Yes.
And we don't set the trends. but we have to be cognizant of those trends.
We have to meet the trends.
Yes.
Or we get left behind.
Now, both of you are optimistic about the economic outlook of BVI. I'm gathering that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we have some work to do. But
and share with us where the optimism comes from.
I'll tell you why. I mean, if I can go first,
sure.
I'll tell you why. The U.S. We hear about the U.S.'s struggles, and there are struggles. The U.S. has tremendous struggles.
Because we are still putting a lot of money in the U.S. Every time you hear you talk, every time you hear the Premier talk, you're talking about the U.S.
And he's right, and if he's taking my advice, I accept responsibility for it. Because he's right. There is no shortage of people in the United States with money. The challenge that we have as a destination is to find those people where they are. And it might mean not fishing where we've always torn the line in the past. We're going to have to do it in other places, right? And find a way to get them here. The other thing is, how do you reach them? It's changing. You know, it's not just ads in magazines alone. You've got to have social media programs. You've got to follow your customer from the cradle to the grave.
You got to talk to them personally.
Exactly. When they come through the airport here, we must know where they're coming from. We must be sensitive that somebody got up in London. Last time I was in London, I was out someplace in the northeast, quite far. I had to get up 3 o'clock, take 3 hours to drive from there to Heathrow to get home. Imagine a visitor, and this is one of the richer areas that we went to do some a road show. You imagine a visitor, and he travels all, and he gets to Beef Island, and there's no ED cards, or he's standing in the line, or the immigration officer is not as pleasant as he should be. We've got to put ourselves in their position. They don't have to come here. They can go. He could have gotten on a plane and gone to St. Lucia, one flight, done.
Yes.
He chose to come to the BVI. We've got to appreciate that. Because they are customers, there are people who come here 20 times every year that come here. We've got to take those customers and realize their value to us, and not just see them as visitors and trying to extract their money from them. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. But we've got to manage our relationship with our customers. In terms of the U.S., in terms of, you said, why am I a little bit optimistic? I think the economy is gradually coming back. It's not going to be the way it was. Don't assume it's going to be 2008 again. That's not coming back. But when you look at the U.S. as compared to, say, Europe, which is really, really, really having mega troubles. I mean, I was reading an article last night that says, you know, the chances are that Europe and its economy will not come back for 10 years. In a vibrant way.
What can we expect from the new market areas that we're looking into?
I think we also, good point, we're also looking at, and again, thinking outside the box. I think South America has tremendous potential, not only Brazil, Chile, and Argentina, and a lot of the other areas around, but those are the principal three. The capacity to get from Brazil to Miami and to the BVI is not that difficult. And it's funny, yesterday I had a conversation with Dr. Prickle about the airport. And if you look at the capacity and the possibility of we getting from BVI to Miami and connecting, it really opens up tremendous possibilities for us. Those are areas.
I've been talking about that since last year, going to BVI to Miami, and the airport that we have now, but nobody is studying me. But
now, Cromwell, somebody has to study you, because in all honesty, you know, the new moneyed or the new wealthy folks, convenience is so important to them. Yeah. And while the older visitors to the BVI didn't mind, you know, going all around the place and taking a boat and taking a plane, the new visitor wants to get on a plane, land, enjoy their 3 days, their 4 days.
Don't want to be bothered with luggage.
And don't want to be bothered with all of that sort of stuff. And these are some of the things you have to understand. You know, we went to Atlanta over Christmas. We got up at 5, took the 6:45 boat to St. Thomas to catch a 10 o'clock flight. We did not get to the airport until 10 o'clock. Missed the flight, missed the next flight because we were now on standby, missed the next flight, and by the time we got to Atlanta, it was 1 o'clock the following morning with no bags, got our bags on Christmas morning.
Well, I came from Jamaica a few weeks ago, and I got my bags the next day. And the experience coming through St. Thomas is not one that I want to put a BVI tourist through. And I think it'll be a much better experience to
come from where we come from to St. Thomas, have your baggage put on a plane, and come to Beef Island.
Yeah.
Then come through the road.
Yeah.
You know, I know there's going to be a debate about that, but you know, my experience has been, unless the Beef Island is going to spend a tremendous amount of money to put a big and get permission from St. Thomas to put a tremendous infrastructure in St. Thomas to manage that whole process. It means handlers on the airport, transportation to the ferries, management of the ferries, to come to BVI to
and
make sure,
arrival at the ferry docks in Tortola.
to make sure that the experience is just so. Unless we prepare to do that, let's get the luggage on the plane, transfer to the plane in St. Thomas, and let them come to Beef Island. And when they come to Beef Island, they see their luggage. Even have their luggage in their hotel room when they get to their hotel room. That's possible in a lot of cases.
I think the reality, though, of just discussion on that particular point is that it is one of the Achilles heels of the destination. And as Portia correctly pointed out, the baby boomers who know what's at the end of the rainbow will put up with it. The new money, and the baby boomers are aging, they're moving on in life. The question is, how do we get the new money in the door to pick up from where they left
Convenience.
And they're not going to put up with this notion of spending
high expectation.
You got it.
And convenience.
And that's our challenge. That is one of the challenges we face.
We got to take a break.
Yeah.
The
other market I want to catch you very quickly on that has tremendous potential to economic is Canada.
Okay.
And that we are not, we're doing some work there, but it's through New York. We will have a presence in Canada before the end of this year.
So we could start looking for better things, more tourists, because the money comes in the pocket of the tourists. We could talk all the business programs we want. Yeah. The money comes in the pocket of the tourists, and we need we need customers. We got a small store. We need customers.
I'm reasonably optimistic that we can deliver better on our visitors. There's some issues that we have to grapple with, but when you peel it all backwards, the key strengths of the BVI are still very strong. There's some tweaking that we have to constantly do, because that's the nature of the beast. And one of them right now that's taking up a lot of time and energy, and will take up a lot of time and energy for the next 4 or 5 years, is getting people here. We have to deal with it.
We got to take a break. Yep. We're going to come back with Lynette Smith and Scotia Bank, a sponsor with Portia. You're going to stay with us, and what are we going to be talking about?
The small business sector.
The small business sector, yes, that's a very important thing.
Yes.
And we're going to really go through that. Keep it locked right here. We'll be right back after these words.
Spotlight is brought to you by Tortola Concrete Limited and CCT Global Communications.
Welcome back to Spotlight. We've just been joined by Miss Lynette Smith, branch manager of Scotia. Sorry to keep you waiting so long.
Yes, long.
But you're here, and we're glad that you're here. Welcome to Spotlight.
Yes, nice to be here.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
You got a lot of energy. You're still bright. You had a long day. Right? It's good. There's an entrepreneurship presentation in the conference.
Yes.
And of course, that speaks to small businesses.
Yes.
Scotia Bank is one of the sponsors. We need to say that.
Yes.
And Scotia Bank has been in the BVI for how many years now?
Oh God, so long. Over 40 years. Over 40 years.
Over 40 years, a long time.
Over 40 years.
And there's a lot of Scotia signs up on buildings and projects.
All over the place.
All over the place. So it means that you're giving loans and you're making lots of money. Right?
Right.
Yeah. It's like people say the bank gives out loans and then they don't, you just owe, but they make lots of money from those loans. And the development of entrepreneurs and small businesses in the BVI, Scotiabank has a conscious policy that it works with in helping to develop entrepreneurs at the BVI?
Actually, yes. A couple of years ago, actually, Scotiabank started focusing specifically on small business. Although we had the product before, it wasn't something that was really driven. But for the last maybe 5 years or so, it's been something that Scotiabank has been promoting quite a bit, not just in the BVI, but throughout the whole Caribbean, because we recognize that through small business, we can help to grow the economy in the different countries that we operate. It's fundamental. Small business is essential to any economy. And you said it earlier, you talked about the economy in the US. It was grounded on small businesses. And we believe that we have a big part to play in helping people in our communities get into business and offering them the financing and even training to get those businesses established.
Okay. How are you partnering with Scotia and with Lynette through the conference to facilitate the development of entrepreneurship?
Right. So Scotiabank, being Scotiabank, this is now our third conference. So they did their research and determined that the BVI Business Outlook Conference is the ideal platform for partnership, and they actually reached out to us. So we've traditionally we go out and seek sponsorship for the event, but Scotiabank actually reached out to us because they felt that this is an ideal platform for them to partner with. And not only are they sponsoring the event, so they're also hosting a booth at the event so that people can get information on developing small businesses, on small business loans, that sort of thing, and also a speaker on the panel addressing small business development. Miss Amber Walker out of the U.S. Virgin Islands, a small business manager from there, will be speaking on a panel as well. So it's a great partnership. We're very pleased to have them on board, and we hope that it's a long-term partnership. As they believe, we also believe that small businesses are the lifeblood of any economy. We are a small business ourselves, so we tremendously appreciate the partnership. And we hope that through the discussion on the 16th that more people would be, because I think at this point people are a bit nervous and wary because of the economic climate. But I hope, based on the discussions that we have on the 16th, that people are encouraged, that there is hope, and that they should pursue their dreams and their passions. And we see more small businesses cropping up throughout the BVI over the next year and well into the future.
Exactly.
Now, what I want to know, has Scotiabank investigated and understands the challenges of Virgin Islanders starting up business? We have a lot of challenges, and I want to know if you investigate some of those challenges.
I think we are aware of some of the challenges that people experience, because we see people on a daily basis coming to speak with us about starting a small business, what they need to do, and what information we can provide them with in order to help them to get off the ground and to start these small business. So yeah, I think we're pretty much aware of what's happening.
And how do you mitigate those challenges as a bank? How do you facilitate the person who has a great idea, has some business skills, and want to start a business, but doesn't know about the criteria, filling out the forms, doing the statements, and then once you get in business, we got a habit of thinking that the business is our personal pocket spending money.
That's true.
And I didn't want to mention all the challenges. But there's a lot of stuff.
It is a task.
Yes,
it is a task.
How do you
helping people to understand? One of the things we've done over the last couple of years is we've had seminars where we educate the public about business writing plans, marketing their business, customer service. We also offer those information on those things on a regular basis, not just at the seminar, but you can come in and speak to a small business manager, and he will provide you with information on how to write a business plan. He will give you that stuff. He will give you information on how to do bookkeeping, about cash flow in your business. And not just our small business officers, but we have our regular personal banking officers who deals a lot with self-employed persons who don't keep good records and don't understand the importance of managing their business well. So we train them also in speaking to these persons on what they in turn need to do to make sure that they not just grow their business, but that they keep good records, and in the event that they want to do something or expand and that sort of stuff. So yes.
Why they're talking about keeping records, I'm guilty. And because I don't like paperwork at all.
Okay.
But I have to big up Scotia Online Banking.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I definitely got to big up, because I could get on Scotia Online Banking. I could see where all my checks. I was never able to do this before. I could see all my checks are, when they came in, what's cash, what's outstanding. It's real easy for me to keep records. And if I wanted financial statements 6 months, I don't have to come into the bank, and I could just go back, dial up on my computer 6 months back and print out my statements and go someplace and do whatever I gotta do. I gotta be up.
And a lot of people don't realize that we offer that service to the small business customer also, and it's free of charge.
It is for small business.
So we have it on the personal side, and we do have it on the small business side. So it makes it even
I'm a small business, and
easier, for the small business.
It makes record keeping a breeze. Really.
A breeze.
Yeah, it keeps the records for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have to big up. The National Business Bureau is open. It's started. I mean, it's not the way I like to see it, but it's a beginning. You got to start somewhere. How are you seeking a relationship with that, and how you think that Scotia would be able to help to advance that cause?
Well, we have been in on some of the initial meetings that they had with that particular. So it's still a working relationship, trying to develop how we can at Scotiabank can work with that group, that organization, to help more local customers or more local people to get into small businesses. I know that they're proposing some different ways to help finance small businesses and that sort of stuff. So we're looking at all policies to see how we can mesh the two together, and in that way have something that can work for the bank as well as the local consumers. Okay. So we're hoping that, as we continue to dialogue, that we'll see continued improvement, and something will happen there.
Is Scotiabank bullish on the economy? Is Scotiabank feeling comfortable loaning money, and the expectation is that money will be repaid and they won't have bad loans because the economy is going to grow? Are you, how you guys in the banking, in Scotiabank, and I can't say the banking industry, but
at Scotiabank,
how you guys feel about the economy and giving money out, loaning money out to facilitate economic growth?
Well, honestly speaking, we have seen a big improvement in that in the last maybe 2 years. 2008, between 2008 and now, we have seen a vast improvement. We don't have a problem really with people not paying their loans. The economy seems to be working much, much better. People are making money, they're paying their loans on time, or delinquencies at an all-time low. I think we have one of the lowest delinquencies in the whole Caribbean, actually, in the BVI.
You got a good collection agency too.
It works well. Problem now is all about Scotiabank. Exactly. Yes. So it works very well.
Okay.
Yes.
So you feel confident that the economy is good, and because some banks have been, the reason I'm bringing this up is some banks have been accused of holding in the community, of holding back on money, and particularly money for small businesses that need inventory.
Yeah.
One of the challenges that we have is inventory turnover, and sometimes it's slow, and then when it turns over, you need to use that money to pay some other bills, and then when the economy picks up again, you don't have that money to get inventory, so you're in a constant battle between paying your bills and inventory. How are you?
I think though, sorry if I may interject, banks have been, I don't want to use the word hoarding, But you know, banks have been holding on to cash, not only in the BVI, but you know, in the United States and elsewhere. I think banks have higher expectations. When you come in, you can't just walk into the bank now and say, well, I want a loan for XYZ. You've got to have all your ducks in a row, have your paperwork in order. It's simply not as easy as it used to be. So now there are rules and regulations that are being implemented, and so if you're walking into the bank to borrow money, you must know that you need to go with the requisite paperwork and you know, having done all your research and that sort of thing. So I think they are hoarding to an extent, holding on. Let me say holding on to an extent. I think the mandate for the local banks probably comes from the head offices and the like, with regard to how money should be distributed. But just to say though to the small business people that it's not going to be the way it used to be. You know, the rules have, you know, the ground has shifted, the rules have changed a bit, and, you know, now the risk is higher. Yeah, the risk is higher. So therefore you have to meet certain requirements.
But then, of course, having said that, it also increases the responsibility of the local banks in trying to help
educate
to educate and to develop.
That is true. Exactly.
And to get people to reach the standard.
Exactly.
Because the bank's success depends on those same customers.
Right, because at some point now they want to get rid of this money.
Right. We want to lend that money.
They want to get the money out the door.
Exactly. They want to lend you the money.
We want to lend that money
at 7%, so that they could get 300% profit at the end of the payment of the loan.
Okay, I'm not gonna go down that road.
I'm not bashing the bank. I'm just saying the reality of banking. That's just how that is.
Yeah, I'm trying to maintain my relationship.
I don't think it's that bad, Cromwell. That to that extreme.
Right.
But you know, the bank does have a responsibility, not just to lend people money just like that, but we have a responsibility to educate the public.
Yes.
We have a corporate responsibility to make sure that when we do lend money, that those people are not just lending money and failing. We want to make sure that they're successful too.
Their success is your
exactly.
Success.
So you know, those are customers that will stay with us forever, and they'll refer other business. So we take it very seriously, especially for small business customers, to make sure that when they walk in the bank to get a service or product from us, if they walk in with nothing, they don't have a clue of what is required. They just have an idea. Now we take that time to sit with them and make sure that they fully understand what is now required, and we give them a time frame. We say, okay, this is what you need to do. This is step 1. Do this, and then we move you to step 2, and we help that customer to get to the point where they can now achieve that particular goal that they have. But it's a work in progress, and as Portia so rightly said, it's not business as usual like long ago. You come because I know you, I know your grandfather, that I come into the bank and get the money. You have to have your ducks in a row. You have to have your documentation. You have to have a business plan.
Yes.
Exactly. You have to know the market. Do we have a market for the product and that sort of stuff? So we're there to help.
Yeah, it's quite interesting now how difficult it is. I remember even just 17 years ago when I came back to the BVI, I just walked in the bank, and the bank under my father, and I had to show anything. All you had to know I was walking. So that's
yeah, we all wish those days would return.
That's quite interesting. But the development of small business in most countries hinge a lot on what's called venture capital. You know, people who want to take high risk.
Yes.
We don't have that here. How are you looking? Is the bank looking at that as a potential market to get into, or that's going to be left to our national bank? Because a lot of times youngsters are going to have great ideas, even some of those app ideas that we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
That's going to need some initial startup funding. How is that going to be done from a banking perspective?
Those great ideas, the bank will look at those great ideas. Once you have a business plan, you can show that these this product or whatever you're going to be doing is going to be have some kind of benefit and so forth. But at the same time, the bank is looking at the risk that is involved in this particular venture also. So you have to probably come to the table with some kind of security also. It's not going to be you have a grand idea and this is what the situation is. If it's a startup business, you must come to the table with something. A lot of people think that they can just come and they have nothing to bring to the table and the bank is just going to give them money because they have a grand idea. You have to put something in also, whether it's some cash to secure the loan to start up until you get yourself established, and then you see that things are going along nicely, and then at some point you might be able to release that cash because you'll be able to stand on your own 2 feet at that point.
What if a person has some great data? I mean, they come in with a data-driven plan. They have done research. They show that this product, there's a market for this product. No one has introduced this product as yet, and they've demonstrated to the bank that on paper, empirical data that this business can really make it. But I don't have any collateral.
I think then we're probably looking for some real venture capitalists beyond the bank.
Beyond the bank.
So
the bank's not going to take that kind of risk.
The banks, I think
the risk is too high.
Yeah, I think we're probably looking for some wealthy people in the community who are willing to back you, or we're looking for fully established businesses that are willing to put some money behind you.
Or even someone to come in. Well, is this possible? Someone to guarantee. And to guarantee.
Exactly. Something of that sort.
Yes.
Something of that sort.
We follow it in the clock. And I enjoyed this discussion thoroughly. I'm very glad that y'all came, and it was I think a great opening show, and I'm looking forward to having you back again to have some more interesting discussion about business development and the way forward for economic development and growth in the territory. So I hope you'll accept my invitations in the future. But we do want to go out by talking about the conference.
Yes.
Just give us a brief rundown of the conference, registration, information, contacts, and so on.
So, we have a number of sponsors. I mean, I guess, time is too short to mention all of them, but we do have another bank as well. First Caribbean Bank is a sponsor, the International Finance Center. I don't want to start calling names because then I'm gonna get into trouble. But in any event, let's just leave that part of it for later. But the conference is, as you mentioned earlier, on the 16th of January at the Scrub Island Resort. The boat leaves Trellis Bay promptly at 8 p.m. And then we have a full day of discussions, interaction, entertainment activities outside of the conference room because we try to make it as interesting as possible. A number of international, regional, and local speakers speaking on very, very relevant issues to our local and the global economy, dealing specifically with tourism and financial services, and also with small business development, as we just discussed. Registration is either via our website, www.bvibusinessoutlook.com, or you can call it 494-8011. I must say, though, at this point we do have limited space available. I think we have only just about 30 spaces left. So anybody who's interested in attending, I would say either go online tonight and register. There is a fee. Lunch is included, all the refreshments throughout the day included, and it's a great opportunity that you really don't want to miss. A lot of us travel abroad to conferences. We pay the airfare, we pay the hotel accommodations, we pay the fee, but this, you get free transportation to Scrub Island. We brought the information to the BVI, and I think it's an invaluable experience that, once you can afford the day and the registration, that you really should not miss it, because it's great and valuable information.
And the phone number to call to get immediate contact.
Immediate?
Yeah, you call.
494. Immediate
contact.
Immediate would be
the website is.
The website is immediate. www.bvibusinessoutlook.com, and immediate for phone contact is 496-6273. But as of if you want to call in the morning, it's 494-8011. 496-6273 is the number.
All right, great.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you again
Yes.
for being my guest on Spotlight.
It was a great delight.
Good. Glad you had a good time. I had a good
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Next week, the Spotlight will be on social and mental issues here in the BVI. We're going to have Dr. Cindy George of Samoa Counseling Services will be here discussing some of those issues, you know, how healthy are we mentally? And, you know, counseling, the kind of counseling that's needed. And, you know, we're kind of people that don't like to be counseled. We don't like people to know that we're having some challenges. So we sit at home and internalize all our challenges, and then we overeat, and then we get diabetes and high blood pressure. I'm sorry, that's what happens, right? But then that's next Tuesday, next Spotlight next Tuesday. But Monday we have a special Spotlight. One of my, you know, this is my favorite Spotlight. Miss Fifth Farm contestants gonna be here. We always gonna have fun. We always gonna have fun with our lovely young sisters from the Elmore South High School. Yes, Miss Fifth Farm pageant is coming up January the 19th. That's next Saturday. And Monday coming, we're going to have the contestants on Spotlight. So you make sure you tune in. It's going to be 8 o'clock. It's going to be live. You're going to be able to call in and comment and big up your favorite contestants. So don't miss it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your words of encouragement. Thank you for your criticism, your suggestions. Continue to email us at jtvspotlight@yahoo.com. I'm Edgewenka, reminding you that when the spotlight is on, you see the facts. Peace and blessings.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Rotown, Tortola, BVI.